Okay, so today's free webinar is called Teaching Preschoolers Online. And I know everybody's busy teaching online these days since the pandemic, and that's totally changed our space and the way a lot of us do business. Has it changed it for the better? Yes and no. I love teaching online. It's worked out really good for my lifestyle because I have my dad down in Florida and I live in Cleveland, so it's enabled me to travel. I can have more frequent contact with my students throughout the week. But there's a little, missing that personal touch. And there are a few things, pros and cons. My next webinar is probably going to be about just all teaching online, all ages. But I wanted to start with preschoolers because they're kind of getting left out of the online teaching thing. And I wrote a book called The Ultimate Piano Activities book for preschoolers, and so I'm trying to adapt a lot of these ideas and put them to online teaching, and they're working pretty well, so I wanted to share them with you. So just some housekeeping. I'm going to try to keep this webinar to 30 minutes. Can everybody see the slides? It's going to be replayed. We'll have it again, and I'll put the recording on YouTube, and people can see it again if they want to. There should be a cheat sheet in the chat. If you don't see the cheat sheet, let me know at the end. I will also post it on my website, palomapiano.com. I'm going to have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So if you think of questions, go ahead and if you have questions, just go ahead and chat them in. I'm not going to look at them until the end of the webinar because I don't want to stop and answer questions while I'm in the flow. So here we go. Like I said, there's going to be a cheat sheet, some handouts. We also have lots of freebies on the website at palomapiano.com that you can look at. Most of you guys are already gold members, which is free. If you want, you can do that. A little bit about me. I was a piano major and a composition major in college. I ended up in a Montessori classroom for about 10 years with a master Montessori teacher who was just amazing at teaching preschoolers, who everything she saw turned into a hands-on lesson. So I kind of picked up a lot of ideas from working there and adapted them to piano teaching, and have kind of specialized in working with preschoolers, although, they get bigger and then they're not preschoolers anymore. So here's my book. It's available on Amazon. I have another book too called The Happiest Piano Teacher in Town, Empowering Teachers to Inspire Students. You can get either one of the books on there. So a lot of the things and concepts and activities that we're going to talk about today are in this book, and they're adapted now for online teaching. So even if you're doing in-person teaching, you can use these ideas. So in this webinar, you're going to learn about why teaching preschoolers is awesome for your studio, how to set up for teaching preschoolers online, which I'm going to talk about some of the technology, how to make some of my favorite preschool activities, and some offers from my website, Paloma Piano. Okay, there's a lot of good reasons to teach preschoolers. Here's the top ones. The younger they start, the better they turn into great older students. By the time they're in middle school and they might not feel like practicing and playing anymore, they're already really good at the piano. So they tend to stick with you. It's good for your studio business. Preschoolers tend to practice than other kids because they'll do it when their parents are working with them. They usually continue, and they're super fun. So here's what you need for the online setup. Obviously, you need a piano. You need either a laptop computer or a tablet that's big enough that the screen is pretty decent, and your students need the same thing. A little phone doesn't really work. I have a wide angle Nexicam overhead webcam on my piano, and I'm going to show you a picture of that setup in a minute. And you and your students both need a pretty fast internet connection, at least 1 megabit per second. And you can check that by going into Google and typing in Google speed test, and it will test your internet connection. And you can have your students do the same thing. My husband is a computer expert, and he said, don't rely on AT&T or whatever your provider is. They're always going to tell you it's fast enough, but Google will tell you. Some of the platforms like Rock Out Loud Live and some of those platforms will also tell you your internet connection. So if your students are not having a fast enough connection, that's one of the things you need to specify in your studio policy when you're setting up to take them on. I also like to have some kind of screen sharing whiteboard so that we can share screens, watch YouTube videos, do different things like that. So here's my setup. I'm right in my living room right now. So I have my piano. I have my camera. I use my laptop. I just set on a chair on top of a stool so they can see that. And I can switch between views of my keyboard and my laptop with a click so that they can see my hands on the keys or they can see me on the screen. So once I have all that set up, I love to send my preschoolers a package. And this is like the key change that I've made since I started teaching preschoolers. I send them the activities that they're going to work with, and they get really excited about it, and so do their parents. It makes you look like $1,000,000, and it makes them feel like $1,000,000 when they get that package. So I have different activities. You can take some from the book or from some of the blog posts on my website. If you want to look at that stuff, a lot of that stuff is free, but I'm going to show you how to use these activities later in the book. But this is just kind of a picture of what gets sent out. I just recently sent out a package, and this is I like to have these little gloves I got at the dollar store. They have numbers. 1 is your thumb and 5 is your pinky. So those are good. If you can't find these, I've found plain ones and written on them 1 through 5 with an indelible marker, so we can practice some fingering number stuff. I'm really big with these little sticks. If you know me, you know that. We're going to show you how to use these later to find the groups of 2 and 3 black keys and notes on the piano. The glass beads are a big deal. We use them to do all sorts of rhythm activities and different things like that, so I'll put some of those in there. On my website, I think this is a freebie. You can print out some staff worksheets, and I put them inside of a protector, like a sheet protector, and they can write on those when they start doing a little work with notes. And we use an erasable marker. I do have 2 piano books that I use. You can use whatever method you prefer. I use this My Favorite Piano book. It's all alpha notes with the little notes inside the note heads and fingering numbers, just to get them started a little bit with doing something. For me, preschoolers are age 3.5 through maybe 6, and it's pre-reading. So I'm not focusing on note reading with my preschoolers at all. We're focusing on hands-on activities. And I also have a preschool primer, some letters. I have these high-low flashcards. They say things like higher middle group of 2, which is like, or not, the middle group of 2 would be a D, because you look at the group of 2, the note in the middle is a D, so they would put a bead on the D, just to orient them to the keyboard. Some other little games, icebreaker flashcards. You can see all that stuff on the website. The other key, besides sending out a preschool package and being really excited about teaching preschoolers, is that you have to have an older helper with them. So that's a prerequisite for me taking any preschoolers on. It can be a parent. In my studio right now, I have 3 preschoolers, and they're all working with older siblings who are my students. So an older sister, I have a couple older sisters who are like 9 or 10, and they have a little brother or sister who's 4, and they like to sit in on the lessons, and they help with the activities and stuff. So you're also mentoring them if you're letting them do this, the other students, so that one day when they want to teach, they're going to know how to do all this stuff. So it's not a burden to them. It's really just like you giving them extra instruction. And then a lot of times I have parents who also come on, and parents love to spend time with their kids. This is no problem whatsoever. As they transition and get older, the parent will step away from that, but that's a key. You have to have somebody helping. You can't put a 4-year-old online and then expect them to walk away. But in my studio, preschoolers have parents at the lesson anyway, so it's not really that much of a change. So 3 to 5-year-olds must have off the bench activities. They're not going to sit on the bench for 30 minutes, that's for sure. I try to keep everything in like 5-minute chunks. So here we go. Here's the skills that preschoolers are working on. Lesson etiquette, meeting and greeting the teacher, taking care of your materials. We learn how to sit properly at the piano. We learn our finger numbers, the music alphabet, the clefs, the keys. We're learning to concentrate. We're learning to listen. We're learning all these skills that are a little bit intangible, but they're going to really help your kids become better musicians as you go along. We like to do things about stories of great composers. On my YouTube channel, I have a few videos, little cartoon videos about music history. You can do that, or read them a story about Beethoven. We do clapping, singing simple melodies, singing solfege syllables, how to clap and count basic rhythms. We learn about the definition of music, organized sound. We might spend some time talking about sounds in nature versus sounds that we organize and make them music, and types of music that we like, and types of music we might not like, but it's still music. We talk about that. How to identify high, low, and middle sounds on the keyboard. And this is really an excellent thing online, because online really develops ear training compared to in person. So when you play those sounds, higher, lower, and middle, they start to learn, get it in their ear what the higher sounds sound like, which notes sound higher than other notes. At the beginning, it's easy to, the real notes and the real high notes, but then eventually C, D, E, they can tell you whether those notes are going up or down. And basic note values. There we go. Timbre. sounds of different instruments. You can work on that. You know, online is excellent. You can pull up a YouTube video of a French horn and ask the student what that sounds like to them and explain what that instrument is. Just millions of activities, loud and soft sounds, fast and slow music. You can listen to some great music. They can learn how to participate in a recital, either in person or online. I recently had an in-person recital planned here in Cleveland, but several of my students had COVID going through their classroom, so it ended up on Zoom. For Christmas, we're going to do a pre-recorded recital. I'm going to put a video together. They're going to find recording themselves is interesting. And we also do improvisation. So we're teaching them to listen. We're teaching them to sing. I like to start all my preschool lessons with a little song of some sort. Just develop ear training, help with the vocal cords, develop the voice. Takes up some time. We're going to move. They're not going to sit on the bench for 30 minutes. They're going to be up and around. They're going to be in the room. We're going to be up and around, whether we're online or in person. And we're going to have things to touch and manipulate. And now we're going to get started with some of my favorite preschool activities. Okay, this is the anatomy of my online preschool lessons. I've sent out the package. They have their books. They have all their little sticks and things I'm going to give them. And then we're going to have our first lesson and we're going to get started. And mom or dad or an older sibling is going to be there with them. And the first thing we're going to do, and we do this at every lesson, is start out with this crossing the midline activity. It supposedly connects both areas of the brain, but it gives them a good chance to get up and stretch. Gives me a good chance to get up and stretch. And it's a good way to get started with your lesson. So this I would do first. Now we're talking about 6 months to a year for these preschool hands-on activities until the kids are going to transition into a more traditional note reading situation. About the time they start to learn how to read words is about the time I start them with note reading. But by that time, they've had a lot of ear training and musicianship developed in them. Okay, so this just talks about the research about crossing the midline. And it speeds up skills like handwriting, reading, tracking objects, math, sequencing, sensory integration, body awareness, and other important skills for critical thinking. Obviously, I cut and pasted that from something else. Okay, so then I like to do this finger practice. We like to play finger games because like even little kids, left hand, right hand, you know, I still mess that up. I'm glad I'm married so I can look at where my left hand is. So we'll do, you know, raise your left hand, raise your right hand. First finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, fifth finger. Now let's do 3. Let's do 4, 2, 1, 5. Maybe touch your second finger of your right hand to your nose. You could play that game. So until they get really comfortable with their fingering numbers, we work with fingers. Play a note on the piano with your 5th finger. So we get used to calling it not your pinky and your thumb, but your finger by your finger numbers. This is a couple of weeks worth of activities for most preschoolers. It takes them a while just to get used to that. And it's fun. And then we do sing. We sing all the time. So now I'm going to show you how I make my first favorite activity, my sticks. I get these colored popsicle sticks at the dollar store, and I glue them together 3 at a time. The reason being is that it's easier for the kids to pick up, and those little skinny sticks can fall between the keys or in the fall board of your piano, and then you have to call a technician to get them out. So you really want to take the time to wood glue them together so they're not going to slip in between the keys and so that the kids can pick them up more easily. Once I do that, I cut them to the size of 3 black keys or 2 black keys. So the 3s have 3 written on them and the 2s have 2 written on them. So first they'll put all the groups of 3 on the 3 black keys. We have the orphan key at the end of the keyboard, that A sharp, but they'll put those on, then they'll put the other one on, and I'll let them stand back and say, look at the pattern. You know, it's because of the black keys that we can tell what the white keys are. So they get used to looking at the patterns of the keys on the keyboards, the 2s and the 3s and the 2s and the 3s. And then I'll use the popsicle sticks also with the letters A through G written on them. We'll start out by finding all the C's on the keyboard. So that's also a couple weeks worth of activity, you know, that they can do that at every lesson at the beginning. And you're doing this online. They have a helper at home. And you're also doing it with them. You have your set of stuff, they have their set of stuff, and just as though you were in person, you're doing this online. You could go ahead and switch to the overhead camera view if you want to show them what it looks like from overhead, or you can set your camera back a little bit so that they can see your full keyboard, but there's no reason why you have to be in the same room with them while they're doing this. And one advantage is you both have piano, so you can actually be doing stuff at the same time. Okay, so there's lots of ways to use the sticks. Once you have them and they get oriented to them, we can, roll a dice and have them find all the A's on the keyboard. We can mix the sticks up and have them find the right keys. We can have them put the sticks in order A through G, or all kinds of stuff. And then if you want to use a little timer to make it more challenging, that's one of my favorite activities. I get a lot of mileage out of these popsicle stick games. And I also like to use these beads for everything, finding notes. 2 beads is a half note, 4 beads is a whole note. So you can do all kinds of things with these glass beads. They're really pretty. You can use them as like a reward. Every time they find a note correctly, they can move the bead to the other side of the keyboard. There's just lots of things you can do. They're real pretty. The kids like to handle them. By the time they're 3.5, 4 years old, we're not worried about them really putting it in their mouth. But they also have their parent helper there with them at all times, so that doesn't happen. I use the dice. You get those at the craft store. You can write letters on them, like A, roll the dice, find an A, roll the dice, clap 4 quarter notes, roll the dice, raise your right hand. So you can, this is the treble clef, the bass clef. Easy to make, really cheap and easy to do. So here's some activities. So we can roll the dice and find notes. We can roll the dice and tell the name of a rhythm, a quarter note, a whole note. We can combine them and do like, put your right hand, 4th finger on A, if you want to roll 3 dice at a time. And they can do this at home with their helper. I do it in my house, and then I just pick up the dice and show them what they rolled. This way, if I roll too many of the same things, I can kind of switch it around a little bit, but we like to do that. So we can do it in succession. We can roll the dice and find a note on the music staff when they get a little bit further along. The possibilities are really endless. You can just use your imagination. So that might be the second part of the lesson that we're doing also. And then I always include a little pair of chopsticks that I find at the Chinese restaurant, or they're like rhythm sticks. You can clap, but at the beginning, we're just gonna, maybe tap a steady beat with a song we're listening to on YouTube, or they might tap a steady beat with something I'm playing, or I might tap a rhythm and they tap it back. So we can do a lot of things, and we can talk a little bit about rhythm being the timing of the music, and that the music exists in time, and rhythm is the canvas of the music, and just kind of get them used to rhythm and doing things like that. So it's kind of separating skills as preschoolers, as opposed to an older student where you're working on all this stuff at once, but it works. Okay. So this is another thing we do with the glass beads. We can use the glass beads to demonstrate like half notes and quarter notes. Now they're not reading this, but they're getting the idea that if there's a quarter note, what a beat is, those kind of things. And they get to play with them, put them on a piece of paper and do different things with them. So you can do these also during your online lesson. You can plan out ahead what you're going to do. So by this time, we're 15, 20 minutes into the lesson. And then when they go to sit at the piano, finally, we're going to talk about with the parents' proper posture. I do like my kids to have an adjustable bench and a foot bench. I don't have that right now, but one thing that works really well, and it's really a super cheap alternative, is you can buy those big foam waffle blocks that they use like in the preschools, like for the kids to play on, and you can stack them up to just the right height, and they don't slide around. They're awesome, and you can use them for your feet and for your bench, so parents don't have to invest hundreds of dollars on a bench. And then you can see in my preschool kit, I sent out a little fuzzy ball like that. And we use this, you either can get one of those squishy balls or like a bean bag, and we use it to just do a hand position, pick them up, put them down, pick them up. And then when they turn it over, they have their hand in this position. When they take it out, that's the hand position they're using. Because most little kids have a lot of trouble with the fact that your thumb is so short and the rest of your fingers are long. So they want to play like this, with the tips of their fingers. This helps them to kind of get that thumb. So that's a little bit of technique work. And then I do use a method book. There's many excellent ones out there. You want to find something really easy and basic. I created this one for my online students. I call it my favorite piano book. And it has, if you could see it, it has, C, D, C, D. It has the notes and the numbers in there. Again, I wouldn't use this with an older student. I don't want them to learn to read by the numbers, but I want my little kids to have the experience of seeing printed music, and I want them to have the experience of feeling like they're being able to play something. As soon as they get going with this, I'm going to transition them out of that into something where they're really reading music, and it's usually not a big problem. And then we like to use improvisation. So we start with the black keys. You can play any note you want on the black keys. If they have mom or dad or an older sibling with them, they can improvise together. On my website, I have a set of improvisation prompt cards, and you'll pick one up and it'll say, you know, Desert Storm. I forget what's on there, but they can improvise things about that, make up their own songs, encourage them to spend as much time on the keys as possible, just having fun. And then there's some board games that we also have. You can get lots of great board games. There's lots of websites that have them. I have some here. I always give them their copy. I have my copy. Like this Fall Fun board game will say something like raise your right hand. And if you can raise your right hand, you can advance to the apple. And then the next one will say play a C on the piano and advance to the corn. So they'll be able to do that. These are the high-low flashcards, note things like that. So you can also incorporate some board games into that because you're both going to be playing on your side, and it works out really well. And then the other thing is, if you see them getting antsy, I do this with my older kids too. We listen at almost every lesson. I'll pull the video on YouTube. I'm really big into jazz, and so I'll pull up Johan Kim or somebody like that and let them listen for, you know, a minute or two to something. It's inspiring. It gives them a chance to do something different. You want to keep that lesson moving along as much as possible. Sometimes I play for them. My older kids, I'll say, pick any song in your piano book and I'll play it for you. So it's a good chance for me to get some sight reading experience. Of course, the more advanced they are, the more challenging that could be. They always look for the hardest thing in the book. But even for your little students, you could say, you know, what song do you like? And if it's some song you know, you can play for them. So they have a chance to listen and see you playing and just get that experience. So in conclusion, use your imagination, sing, dance, play for your students, do all those things that you would do. Use media or YouTube to show some videos. I misspelled video there. Have your students improvise, tell stories. The ideas are limitless. You could read a book and have them improvise about the story that they're reading. It's limitless. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about my website, Paloma Piano. And that's going to give you some ideas about what we have there. So everything you need is right on Paloma Piano. You just have to click and get whatever you want. Teachers can download and print everything unlimited on Paloma Piano. So we have a gold membership plan, which is free. If you haven't signed up for that yet, you should head over and sign up. I'm going to put the, see if I can put the URL in the chat. Make sure I got that right. Piano.com. So you should be able to, I'm going to do it again just to make sure I got it. I know I'm talking and doing something. All right, I'm going to do that just again, just in case. All right, so everything's there. I keep adding more stuff too. If I see my students need something, I create it for them and I publish it for you. So we have ostinato left-hand pieces that are easy to learn. We have stuff for more advanced students. I have a classical music corner where I engraved the favorite classical selections that I like to teach. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of resources there. You'd have to look around and see what you like. So I had this idea of just creating a membership where you just pay one small fee and then you get to download and reprint as much as you want, everything you need for your studio. Unlimited, instant, send it in the email, it's all done. And I've been doing this about 4 years. I have a lot of teachers on here, and platinum members, I let you sell the music back to your students. So if you're paying $21 a month for your membership, you can, instead of just buying a studio license or buying a book, you can download that piece and sell it to your student for $3 or $5, or you can charge them a $50 a month materials fee and make some extra money for your studio like that. It ends up being, you know, $1,500, $2,000 a year if you have a bigger studio. So that's all just profit for you. So there you take a trip. Huh. So that's what we were talking about. So today's webinar pricing is here. It's $177 yearly. That's the cheapest. $50 quarterly or $21 monthly. And that's for everything on the website. All the games, all the method books. I have a full line of method books on there. Games, classical music, all kinds of solos. I have things like First 4 Before. It's a program for 4 weeks of working with a student who doesn't have a piano yet. So it's all kinds of activities they can do. And it's also got a piano buying guide for parents and an explanation for parents about why they need to buy a decent piano and what kind of decent piano to get. I have things like that. I have things like Reading RX for your students who've fallen off, can't read. They have been neglecting their note reading and they need some reading practice. These are things I run into. Rhythm RX, kids not counting. So the things I see, music theory, the things I need, I create, I publish them for you. I've been doing this for a while. And I also have stuff for teachers. Right now, I just gave away 2 good freebies of Christmas music that you could play at your Christmas services if you want. And if you sign up for the membership, you're not sure, doesn't cost anything. You never have to put a credit card in for the gold membership. So there's a platinum basic, and just for the solos and games, it's $10.99. So that's that. Here's my 2 books. If you join in the next 24 hours, you can have either choice of my books. I'll send you either one of these books, either paperback or ebook, whichever you want. You can have the Ultimate Piano Teaching Activities book, or you can have the Happiest Piano Teacher in Town. We'll give it to you today as a bonus if you sign up. And now it's time for Q&A. So I have to look through my chat and see. Let's see, from Foam Waffle Box, one I have a pretty big squares. Yes, I use those. They fit really well on the bench. That was from Catherine. And Dolly said, what is the best way to use YouTube subscription? YouTube Kids? I do not pay $60 a month for YouTube subscription. I think it's just way too expensive. I use my regular YouTube. I handpick the videos for them. Right now, I have an iPad Pro. I can't do screen sharing with Zoom on my iPad Pro. So basically, I will set up YouTube. And what were we listening to? And I will just put the screen up for them so that they can see it and watch just a couple minutes of it with them and ask them what they thought about it. Let me scroll back a little bit. Let's see, more questions. How long for your class? I try to do 30 minutes. We try to fill up the whole 30 minutes. Right now I'm in a 30-minute block. My beginners have 30 minutes, intermediates do 45, and advanced students do an hour. Occasionally I'll have a preschooler that just cannot handle 30 minutes, and so I will have them split to 2 15 minutes per week. My next webinar is going to be about some of the advantages of online teaching, and one of them is that the flexibility makes it so that we can really have a lot more touch points with our kids throughout the week, and so they can progress a lot more quickly. Okay, let's see. Can you post the cheat sheet again at the end? Yes, I will, and I will also post it on the website, and you can get it for free at palomapiano.com as well. Can you? Yes, you can see the slides. Let's see. There we go. I'm just trying to see if there's any more questions. Are there any more questions? Do preschool group piano lessons work online? I have not. I have not done preschool group yet online. That's another project. The thing is, I'd have to probably have a group Zoom class. I have done group classes online with my older kids. We do a Saturday meetup and we do music theory and music history and stuff like that. That works. And there's also another question that I just missed. Do I ask my students to practice after the class? Absolutely. They have to go over these activities. I absolutely want them to get into the habit, and their parents. That's one of the great things about having, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's one of the great things about having parents on board from the beginning is they get the idea that it's practicing in between classes. So I will assign them, do your sticks once a day, sit on the piano bench, practice your hand position, make up a song about roses or something. 5 minutes, but just to get into that habit of every day they go to the piano. And if they can't, I tell them to listen to something. So yes, making music a daily activity. I'm going to add that next time I do this webinar. Okay. Do preschool group lessons students practice? Let's see, is there any more? Oh, find the phone blocks. I found them on Amazon.com. They also have them at Walmart. You can get them. Okay, explain my equipment. I have a Nexicam wide angle camera, so it shows most of the keyboard. And I have a camera stand. I found one that goes with it that fits, so it goes right over the keyboard. I don't know if I can get back to that slide. So I use that. I have a fast internet connection, 3 megabits per second. We have AT&T, so I use that. I usually use Zoom for most of my classes. I've also, for some of my students, used Rock Out Loud Live. Rock Out Loud Live is excellent. It doesn't work all the time for Chromebooks as well. So I went back to Zoom. Also, screen sharing is a little easier on Zoom. And my philosophy about online is you know, there's glitches. Sometimes it freezes. Sometimes this happens. But you know what? In-person lessons are the same thing. You can get stuck in traffic. You can get a cold, so you can't go that day, even though you're really not that sick. You can forget your books. You can do, things can happen also with in-person classes. So if you're really interested in teaching online and you want to expand your studio that way, there's pros and cons to everything. I try to do a little bit of hybrid if my students are in the area, or if I happen to be visiting where they're at. I like to try to see them in person when possible, but it works well. And within a year, those preschoolers transition into reading, and then most of them are able to independently have their lesson by the time they're in, first or second grade. They can be more independent with their lessons. So yeah, you love Rock Out Loud Live. Yeah, they have a lot of good features on Rock Out Loud Live. How do I switch cameras? Okay, I use a connector. So I connect my camera is connected to my notebook, and then on the bottom of the Zoom screen, if you click on the camera icon, it will show both cameras, and then you just have to click on your webcam, and then it'll switch to the webcam view. Yes, I do offer a free trial lesson all the time, because I also want to evaluate whether I want to take the student. Always come at it like, you're offering something. Even if you only have one student and you're desperate to have 1 million students because you need the money, never come across like that. What you're giving somebody is something awesome. So you have to be like, let them apply to work with you. You're on this webinar. You're furthering your knowledge. You're doing stuff that a lot of people aren't doing. So come from it as the mindset that it's not just them that's interviewing you. It's you that's interviewing them. So I give a free lesson just to meet and greet and see how things work out. So, and I just had a family of 4 that wants me to come out to their house, but it's 40 minutes away and I'm not going to do that. So I did offer them that. I send the package before the trial, and you know what? It's a risk. I could end up spending $10 because I think in the US, it's as much stuff as you can stuff into an envelope for $9 or something. And it's possible that I waste $9 and I send the package and then they don't sign up. Actually, that's never happened to me. That usually clinches them. They're usually pretty excited about getting that package. So it's worth it. As my grandfather would say, you have to take chances. So I do. Is it difficult getting parents to work and compete? They have to be there. There's no, Sheila, I make them, if they say they can't be in the lesson, then their preschooler can't take lessons. Somebody has to do it, either an older sibling, a caregiver, somebody older has to be there to help. You can't put a 4-year-old online by themselves. It won't work. So in that case, I would have to say they would have to be turned away. I haven't had that problem though, because of the flexibility of online and the parents not having to run around. I'm finding a lot of my parents had the opportunity to go back to in person. They didn't want to. They're just really happy to be online. And right now I am too. I do kind of miss in-person lessons. Do you guys miss in-person teaching? So the video of the wide angle camera not doing, oh yeah, that's my husband. He's putting in some links for you guys. So there you have it. If there's any more questions, I don't know. So you can go ahead and head over to palomapiano.com if you want to sign up for your membership today and get a free book. That would be great. Here's my offer. I think I can put this up. There it is. I'm going to publish this offer, so you can just click right over if you want to and get your membership. Or if you have any questions, or at least sign up for your Gold membership, we're always available to answer questions on email. I have a Facebook group called Piano Teacher Apprentice, free to join for everybody. Go ahead and you can join that. I also have a YouTube channel, Paloma Piano, if you want to join that. But you can find all this info for free on my website as well. And I also have a blog for piano parents called pianoparents.net. So if you want to head over there. So if there's no more questions, I guess we'll end the webinar. And I will see you guys at the next webinar in about a month. All right. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.